1994, a mere 2 years after Francis Ford Coppola made his interpretation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, Kenneth Branagh came in to direct and star in his version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Much like Coppola's Dracula, this particular adaptation is one of the closest in narrative to its source material, hence the title. The film begins with explorer Captain Walton leading an expedition to the North Pole. When his ship becomes trapped in ice, he comes across a mysterious man who introduces himself as Victor Frankenstein and begins a story of how he lost everything. Having had a privileged life as the son of a baron, Victor soon left to further his education at a university. After parting ways with his adopted sister-turned-lover Elizabeth, Frankenstein learned the intricacies and secrets of preserving life from his mentor, Professor Waldman. Eventually, Victor became so engrossed in these concepts that he sought to extend them to the creation of a perfect being that would be superior to man in every way. Unfortunately, Frankenstein failed to consider the gravity or consequences of this undertaking, which is when everything went wrong. Similar to Bram Stoker's Dracula, this movie loyally adheres to its source material in terms of narrative, which is already something that can't be said about many other versions. And, while the movie itself doesn't quite reach the lofty heights of other films like The Curse of Frankenstein, it still provides a fairly compelling story that should please loyalists and entertain those looking for something new added to the familiar story. This comes in the form of the title character and the emotional turmoil that he goes through. More than any other adaptation, this film gives us a version of Frankenstein with something to lose. Not only is his mother's death used as an understandable motivation for his desire to conquer death, but the emotional deterioration that he goes through over the course of the story is consistently engrossing. Much of this has to do with Kenneth Branagh's performance, which excellently balances the scientific brilliance and ethical naivety that drive the character. Additionally, he brilliantly conveys a fascinating process in which Frankenstein becomes more and more emotionally drained and disconnected with every loss that he endures. Opposite him is Helena Bonham Carter as Elizabeth, who is fairly believable and likably innocent as the pure-hearted yet resolute female figure. This is especially surprising because she credibly acts like a normal person here instead of the slew of caricatures that she seems drawn to nowadays. The two are backed up by a fantastic supporting cast. Tom Hulce is identifiably logical as Victor's concerned friend Clerval, while adding an eccentrically nervous energy that makes him endearing. John Cleese effortlessly steps out of his comedic forte as Waldman and brings a weathered sense of experience and expertise. Aidan Quinn feels very natural as the brash and determined Captain Walton. Ian Holm possesses the appropriate regality as Victor's father and also pulls at the heartstrings once his authoritative character sinks into depression. And finally, we have Robert De Niro as the creation. Yeah, in 1931 he was the monster, in 1957 he was known as the creature, here he's called the creation. This is one of the elements that work the best. This time, we actually hear the character speak. On top of employing a very slow and calculating manner of speech that beautifully contrasts with his horrific appearance, De Niro brings an emotional depth to the creation that makes him equally as compelling as Frankenstein himself. This is fitting due to him also going through a change from infantile fright and fragility to vengeful intelligence. In addition, his ability to converse makes for some thought-provoking scenes between him and Frankenstein. He asks questions like whether or not he has a soul and if Victor ever considered the consequences of his actions. The fact that his creator can't answer these hammers home the book's message of man being unfit to triumph over nature and God. It certainly helps that the film treats this subject matter with the utmost seriousness and significance. There is an overriding atmosphere that supports both the ominous and somber tones of the story. Where the film falters somewhat is in its overly dramatic techniques, once again akin to 1992's Dracula. While I generally think that Branagh is better than Coppola at utilizing the theatrical style, as I felt there were more human moments in this one, some scenes are a bit too overblown and wrapped up in said style. At a certain point, it becomes more of a distraction than anything, with one of the more noticeable examples being the film's constant use of the kinetic camera that revolves around a group of people having a conversation. In conjunction, some scenes, like the climax, feel rushed to make room for others. However, one area where the film is consistently strengthened is in the terrific musical score by Patrick Doyle, which fits perfectly into the exciting scenes as well as the more melancholy moments in its memorable themes. Also, the sets and costumes are all pleasing to the eye and work well with the sweeping environments to nail the setting. The makeup and prosthetics on De Niro are also top-notch, fittingly repulsive without limiting his facial expressions. All in all, even though Mary Shelley's Frankenstein has some glaring issues in its distracting style and occasionally rushed or clunky storytelling, the wonderfully heartfelt performances, lavish production design, impressive effects, electrifying music, and emphasis on emotion definitely work in its favor. Well, that about does it for the month of horror movies for me. Thank you guys for watching, and have a happy Halloween.